This is my hobby. The greatest hobby. One hobbyist here, and we're back at it again at the conclusion of our character exploration guide for the Firelands characters. In the last video, we covered the Dervish and how his boosts of movement are very beneficial inside of the Firelands expansion. But now, let us get on to the final character of the Firelands expansion. The final character of the Firelands expansion. She is a warrior who craves battle, who craves building an army. This is in fact the Warlord. So now let's go ahead and get into the character card of the Warlord. So the Warlord has a strength of 4 and a craft of 3. She is an evil character, the only evil character in the Firelands expansion, who starts on the ruin space. If you are thinking big picture, this space is directly the connection piece between where the dungeon entrance starts. You don't remember from our dungeon expansion video. So, when it comes to starting locations, if the dungeon is the first place that you're trying to go, for whatever reason, then the Warlord is definitely a character that you want when it comes to that position, because the dungeon is literally going to be right in front of you. And if you saw on the Warlord's card, you see this little black symbol here, this black fire symbol. That is the symbol of the Firelands expansion. So all of the characters, adventure cards, and spells are going to possess this logo in order to help you differentiate between all the expansions. And it's a neat way to be able to find these cards and be able to separate them. The Firelands expansion is something that you're not particularly interested in playing with this time around. So that is definitely something that is nifty. So let's go ahead and move forward with the rest of the Warlord's stats. The Warlord has a fate of 2 and a life of 4, as well as 3 character abilities. Now remember, generally when it comes to character abilities, the fewer character abilities that they have, the higher the quality they're generally going to be. So let's go ahead and get into this first character ability. When you encounter a follower, you may immediately conscript it. Take that follower as a conscripted follower, even if you normally could not take it. Ignore all the card text on your conscripted follower, and instead treat them as if they said, add 1 new strength during battle. So, essentially what this means, and how useful this ability is to be able to take conscripted followers, is that there are the cursed followers, if you remember from the Harbinger expansion, who generally offer bad things for you. Or all cursed followers generally have their caveats in which they hinder your progress, or any other character. But with the Warlord, you are essentially able to ignore that text, being able to override it and simply let them be followers who add 1 strength for you during battle, being able to essentially draft them to fight with you. It doesn't matter whatever background they came from. Inside of the Sacred Pool expansion, this is definitely useful because excuse me. The Sacred Pool expansion is entirely themed around the alignments, whether it be good, evil, and neutral, and because the Warlord is an evil character, she would generally miss out on any of the good and neutral followers that exist that benefit those particular characters. But because of that conscription ability, she can essentially override the alignment aspect of it, override any of the abilities that it has, and essentially allow them to assemble an army for the Warlord, in much of the similar regard as the Magus. But you also got to take into consideration this. Any followers that you do gain that you conscript, that is their character, that is their follower ability from now on, excuse me. So if you get the guide who can protect you from the crags, the chasm, as well as any followers that can get you out of the maze, or that sort of thing, any very useful followers who have additional abilities, just remember that if you conscript them, you are essentially ripping away their abilities and only using them to help you fight in battle. And that none of their other abilities count. So be careful of which followers that you choose to conscript, and which ones you want to just keep as regular followers. Because inside of the Firelands expansion especially, there's going to be some characters who might throw out some burns, any followers that hinder you when it comes to certain stats or being able to progress. So being able to conscript is nice, but just knowing which followers you want to conscript and which ones you want to keep simply because their abilities are very useful, instead of taking that away from them and only being able to use them for strength. So let's go ahead and move forward to the second character ability, which still ties into the whole follower aspect. When you defeat another character in battle, you may take one of his followers as a conscripted follower, in addition to the normal reward. So again, being able to essentially stockpile your army, build up your strength and numbers with all the followers that you've drafted to war, and then being able to fight with you is absolutely great. It is a great way to drastically build strength and attack power, especially if you eventually get enough followers to where you can run off in the dungeon, kill off most of the strength-based enemies, and eventually make your way through the Lord of Darkness. Maybe get that 8 or more difference that we were talking about in that tutorial, be able to reach the Crown of Command directly. It's definitely a strategy for Warlord. But like I said, remember which followers it is that you're trying to conscript. Because once you conscript those followers, there's no undoing it. There is no way that you're able to get their original abilities back, because you conscript them only for war. So this is also where the third part of the conscripted followers takes place with this third character ability. When you would lose one life, you may discard one of your conscripted followers to prevent the loss of that life. So, when it comes to that regard, it's very similar to the fact that the cleric in the Sacred Pool expansion is able to discard fate to save herself and her followers, but instead the conscripted followers are the sacrifice instead of the fate for the Warlord. So that is definitely good inside of the Firelands expansion, because if you need to land on specific spaces and you get a huge amount of conscripted followers, you're able to successfully land on those Firelands spaces because you're essentially sacrificing conscripted followers to be burned to their deaths in exchange for being able to land on those spaces and hopefully find specific cards that are able to either eliminate the Firelands tokens, possibly move the Firelands tokens, and all that sort of thing. So being able to have a huge amount of conscripted followers is great, because it allows you to take advantage of extinguishing and rearranging the terrain in your favor in protection-wise. But overall, I want to say that definitely the Warlord is a character who specializes in strength. Her ability to gain conscripted followers can greatly increase her chances of being able to win a lot of battles. But just remember that which followers you choose to conscript can also affect how easy or how difficult it's going to be for you to be able to progress. Because you're going to conscript the wrong followers, you're going to miss out on character abilities. So overall, this is the conclusion of the Firelands tutorial for these sets of characters. And hopefully you can pick and choose between the pros and cons of which character is going to be the one best for you, because all 4 of the Firelands characters are going to have their areas in which they shine, and that's probably the beauty of this expansion. There's not so much like the Sacred Pool, where I found the Cleric to be the clear winner in regards to who's overall better. But with the Firelands characters, it's all situation based in the way that you want to go at it. So I'll go ahead and sign off now and see you guys in the next one.